The gentleman that's taking the reign right now, he may want to sign that. I'm not sure. He walked out to talk to me.
Well, 6:30, we'll call this meeting to order. 6:30, call this meeting to order. Roll call. Johnson? Here. Light? Here. Bendel? Here. Lasky?
Here.
And Huber is not here. Rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, well, welcome to 2026. Who would have thought we'd be here? This is my first time being a mayor, and so it's kind of, shall we say, intimidating. I'll try not to make too many missteps, but I have an experienced potential mayor pro tem here who will correct me, I hope, keep me in line, and correct my missteps. When the council members are speaking to me or speaking to the chair, please face me. My hearing aids increase volume, but seeing your lips move helps me define words. So I hope it won't be too difficult in that case. Each one of you comes from a very varied background, vast experiences in different places. Your life experiences are all varied, and you all bring something to this group. And I really, really want to hear what each one of you has to say, whether in a meeting or outside these meetings. We have differences and sometimes we don't agree, but even in the disagreement, we'll find points where we do agree, and seeing someone else's point of view increases our ability to accept things for how the other person sees it. And with that, let's move on to the meeting. Thank you very much. Public input, we have Richard Smith.
I see here in the, for tonight, the last on F, you're looking at agreeing to, you're looking at a proposal to borrow money up to $940,000. What is a general obligation purpose loan? And why?
Thank you. Move on to the consent agenda. Do I have a motion?
I'll motion to approve consent agenda.
Second. Are there any questions on the consent agenda? If there are no questions, go to a vote.
So just to repeat, Jeff motioned and Shane seconded, so you can do your roll call.
Councilman Bendel,
Yes.
Councilman Light,
Yes.
Councilman Johnson,
Yes.
Councilman Baskey.
Yes.
I'm sorry,
You're good.
council person. I need to correct my. And staff reports. Public Works Director is written. Benton County Sheriff is written, I presume. I thought I saw that. Fire Department, no building inspector report. City Administrator, did you have anything verbally?
Do I what?
Do you have something verbally?
Oh, I will probably all night, but I tried just summarizing a few of the things that I've been working on fiscal year 27 budget, so that has taken a lot of time. We will be talking about most of the items. We do have winter training coming up that the deputy clerk and myself will attend. That's put on by the Iowa Municipal Financial Association. Had a really good engineering meeting yesterday that was quite a bit. We have our final projects, which the pay apps would show in the consent agenda. So the Big Miller overlay is finalized. Pollinator Park Phase 1 is finalized. The 2 Union Avenue demo came down Monday. We'll be working on Phase 2 and finalizing the designs there for Phase 2 of the Pollinator Parks. Our comprehensive plan steering committee had their first meeting in December, and I sent out the updates for that as well as a social or website post. And we're still working with legal on 305 Wood Street building downtown, in the downtown district.
City Engineer, do you have verbal?
And just to emphasize what Jennifer said, we got a couple pay apps that are being finalized on the consent agenda. Projects completed, wrapping them up. The pump house and tank are pretty much winterized and kind of sitting still at this point, and hopefully come March, we can get back on with the pump house work and finalizing the tank project.
And old business, we don't have any. New business. Mayor appoints pro tem. Councilperson Bendel will be our mayor pro tem. Thank you.
Thank you.
Consider resolution 2026-188, depositories and authorizing signatories of the same for the city of Urbana. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2026-188, the name of the dispensaries.
And I'll second.
Any discussion? No discussion, take a vote. Baskey,
Yes.
Councilperson Johnson,
Yes.
Councilperson Light,
Yes.
Councilperson Bendel.
Yes.
Consideration of request to approve written consent for 300 North Union. The little bit of background on that, I'm going to have the city administrator speak to how that consent came to be, so you have something, a bit of an understanding?
Yes, okay, so, the office has a request, that came in for a property owner here on 300 North Union Avenue. The, request actually came from the grandson, to take, either the grandson's taking his great-grandson, so the whole family. And the property owner, we did get some further clarification. Mayor contacted to find out further clarification on the weapon that they would like to have discharged on the property, which is a BB gun air rifle, if I'm correct on that. BB gun air rifle, and he would like to take his grandson on the property to hunt. It is a 5-acre property to hunt rabbit during rabbit season. So of course, per the ordinance, the property owner needs to have a written consent for this because it is to discharge a weapon within the city limits. So since I have not done this before, I did provide the council with 2 sample written, I will just call it a written council consent to discharge BB gun / air rifle on the private property. The feedback that came back from Councilmember Bendel was that if we do look at providing a council written consent to do that during rabbit season, which we're going to say would be from after tonight's meeting until February 28th, that the proposal would be the 2 samples, but one of the samples actually includes a date range, so the written consent would only be for the date range that they're requesting for the rabbit, which I see on here that the sample that I put says January 18th. I would assume if this is approved, it would start as soon as tomorrow, if that's the case, through February 28th, 2026. The second sample letter simply just leaves out the date, which was the one that I had initially created. I know there was a concern previously with the particular property in regard to the nuisance, because it has been a property that has been a nuisance property. And I don't know, Chair, if you would like Councilmember Bendel to maybe give a little more background on that, or if everyone's been able to keep up with their email. I don't know.
Would
Back
you
and
like to
forth.
elaborate, Councilperson Bendel?
I mean, I would say separate from the merits of this request, that property has been, we've had, they've received nuisance abatement requests for, I believe there's a dilapidated home, maybe a building as well. To my knowledge, they haven't been corrected or abated, the nuisance hasn't been abated. Just merely pointing that out as we've requested and not received. It's not been taken care of, so. That's kind of an aside to this, I think. I don't know if we want to discuss that. That might be a whole nother topic to go down. But I think the merits of the request for discharging the gun on city property is probably a singular discussion we could have.
Private property, sorry.
Yeah.
Private property within the city
Within the
limits,
city
yes.
limits, correct. Apologies. So that's just merely what I was thinking in terms of that property itself, since it is, it's, I don't know, if you drove past it, you can see for yourself what the concerns have been, so, but that's, like I said, that's kind of a different topic of this request specifically, so.
Okay, may I take a motion to consider the request?
Make a motion to consider the request.
I second that.
Light? You say?
Yes.
Is there discussion on the item?
I have just a couple, I guess, and just in passing, obviously, we all know it's a BB gun / pellet gun, air rifle, whatever you want to call it, but it still is discharging a firearm. I know there is, I don't know, I was trying to get to that, didn't quite get to what area that is zoned. Is that commercial? Is that residential zoning? Does anyone know on that? And obviously, there is a commercial business close, which state law is you can't discharge any firearm within 200 yards. I don't know if anybody's measured the distance of that.
Permission to speak?
Speak.
So to answer the first part of your question, I believe it is still zone light industrial. The second piece of that, I personally have not measured the 200 yard, but the person that will be on the property with his grandson did mention, as he does work for the DNR, that he was aware that there is the 200 yard between other structures. So I did not personally measure it, but he did mention that he is aware of the law with the 200 yards.
And this did we clarify, the owner did submit the request, or it wasn't just, right?
Right, so I ended up correct. So the initial request came in from the grandson, to take his son on the property. I did reach out to the actual property owner and spoke with him and his wife to get the verbal consent that they agreed to request that the weapon be discharged on the property. And they agreed that that was what they were requesting, the council to allow their son or grandson go on the property to discharge the BB gun air rifle. They also called it a BB gun, but I'm saying BB gun / air rifle because I know the mayor did get clarification.
I'll step outside of my mayorship momentarily. During discussion, he described the weapon as a 5-pump gun. And so BB gun, it will shoot BBs, but it's actually an air rifle when you start pumping them up like that. So I was concerned that they were gonna wound rabbits. And that's why I started inquiring as to the capabilities of this air rifle. I think perhaps they described it as a BB gun to, shall we say, minimize the danger quotient.
I mean, that's another concern I would have, is just what liability does it open the city up to if we grant the permission, if there is an incident. I'm not implying anything, just if it did occur, would there be any, do we need to have a full harmless on it and attached to any authorization granted? But I don't know just thought of that on this, but.
You want to mention about the laws contained, et cetera. Have you read what we're looking at? So if they're complying with the laws, that's one thing. If they're not complying with the laws, then they're in trouble on top of that.
Right, so because it is private property, I don't believe that the city would then be held liable. It goes back to they're doing the request, so if they break the law, that would be whether they're at the residential or here at the private property, commercial or residential, but they would be held liable. So if like they didn't stay within the 200 yards and they shot the weapon and it broke a window, they're still held liable for that as property owners, just as any of us would be.
I mean, I personally don't have an issue with it, especially with the dates being clarified, but that's my 2 cents.
So I will ask for a vote, yes or no, on discharging the weapon, and then a second vote on whether or not to apply the dates, so. Just to clarify
Okay.
how we proceed here. But it's entirely up to the council's vote how this goes.
My concern with not attaching any type of time frame to it is when does it end? Is it indefinite with the property? Is it indefinite with the current ownership of the property? Without time boxing, I feel like it does leave some ambiguity as to what we've authorized. Is it forever on that address they can discharge? Or, that was my main point of limiting it to, or requesting a limit to when they could actually discharge for rabbit hunting.
Yeah, I feel that the dates would be fine with the rabbit season off. As far as, staying without at least 200 yards away from any structures, other property, then having issues.
Councilperson Johnson, do you have some input?
No.
I would make a motion to approve the request to discharge the BB gun / air rifle on the private property for rabbit hunting.
And I second.
Given we have a motion to make it one vote. Lasky,
Yes.
Light,
Yes.
Bendel,
No.
Johnson,
Yes.
motion is passed to approve the written consent for 300 Union with the date constraints. Consideration of request to initiate alley right-of-way vacation process southeast Washington Avenue. Do I have a motion to discuss that?
I'll motion to discuss initiation of right-of-way vacation.
I'll second.
Any discussion on that?
So this would just be merely going through the legal process, correct, to
Correct.
vacate that?
So I did provide, I know the email that I sent out, I did provide yesterday during the engineering meeting, I did request that we have a new map, which I attached here, so that you can see a little better it's so hard to show this, but the green space here on Southeast Washington Avenue for the right-of-way that's being requested by Mr. Jacobson. You did come back in? Okay. I just wanted to make sure I didn't have to go get you. So we did discuss this with the engineer. We've also gone through the utility maps and the easements for utilities. So what we'd like to move forward with the vacation process. So this is simply just to get the council's approval to move forward with the process. And then of course it would go to P&Z and then public hearing and all those things. So we have other steps, unless you guys have questions for me. Or for the engineer, he was part of the process as well yesterday when we discussed it.
Would it make sense to also consider the other property there? Are they interested in that?
So that will be part of the process. So right now, you will just make the motion that we would approve initiating the right-of-way vacation process. So when I included the ordinance in here, you'll see that once it goes to P and Z, there will be a notice to vacate, and then there's also findings required, which one of the findings required would be that there will be a notarized consent, written consent from the abutting properties, that the person wanting to purchase the property will need to be getting the written consent of abutting neighbors to do so. So again, this is just to initiate that process to start, because there will be expenses to the current property owner for survey and other different things that they would have to do with their attorney as well.
Any other discussion? Are we ready to vote?
I'll make a motion to initiate the process of alley right-of-way vacation process.
And I'll second.
Lasky,
Yes.
Councilperson White,
Yes.
Councilperson Whitmore,
Yes.
Councilperson Johnson,
Yes.
set dates for special meetings on Monday, April 6th at 6 p.m. Meeting consider resolution to set the date for the public hearing and approve proposed property tax levy relief for 27. Budget and meeting number 2, set special meeting for Monday, April 20th, 2026 at 6:30 p.m. Hearing on the fiscal year 27 budget adoption. Do I have a motion?
I'll motion to approve the dates for meeting 1 and meeting 2.
Sorry, Chair, can I clarify something?
Yes.
So, just to be clear, we are setting the date for the April 6th meeting. And I just put B on there so that you know that we have to actually have 2 completely separate meetings, if you remember from last year as a state requirement. So for B, we will not have the resolution for that until the April 6th meeting. So that's why you only have the 1 resolution, which will be to set the date. So as we go through our budget sessions, March 5th, I believe, is when we need to have our property tax levy ready, so to the county, so that they can do their publications. So this is simply for the first one, and the B is just letting you, as that reminder, that there will be 2 separate meetings. So the second one to set the date for April 20th, that resolution will be on April 6th.
Okay, thank you.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Have a vote. Councilperson Lasky,
Yes.
Councilperson Bennett,
Yes.
Councilperson White,
Yes.
Councilperson Johnson,
Yes.
and capital improvement plan fiscal year 27 projects. Do we have a motion to discuss that?
I'll make a motion to discuss the capital improvement plan for fiscal year 27.
Second.
Discussion?
Okay, so this is a lengthy part of our engineering meeting yesterday, so I'd like to provide as much information as we can. So, in your budget binders that we'll look at later, as you know, the city council developed the capital improvement plan that is for, as our guiding, I like to use that as our guide, where we went through and prioritized all the capital improvement projects within the city, and that plan is 2025 through 2029. So, I provided a memo to kind of walk through some of those things, but I did want to further clarify after some questions when I sent the memo out regarding the two upcoming projects. So the first one is the overlay for 30th Avenue, which would be Highway 150 to Deer Run Drive. Initially, that estimated costs, of course, which would have been like 2024, 25, was $320,000 when we got those estimates from the engineer when we were developing the plan. That particular project is $363 for the city engineer, which would include the compounded inflation of 4% to construction costs for 2027. And I'll get a little more in depth in that. The second project that we're looking at is I like to call it a Safe Routes to School project, which we had discussions about a couple years ago in developing the plan, which would include construction of sidewalk along South Street. And after the engineering meeting yesterday, it only makes sense that this actually would be from Shiloh Vista Avenue to Ash Avenue. And the initial estimated cost a couple years ago was $494,000. With the increase for the city engineer for compounded inflation of 4% construction costs to the 2027. Those are the two projects that I would like to discuss. Back when we prioritized these projects, we had estimated, I don't even know that we really had maps or what do we call these? Concepts, just concepts.
Concept and plans or exhibits.
So I have included, from Hall and Hall, the 30th Avenue overlay, which I believe, if it's not right there in there, it should be, it was in the email, I tried to get a color copy for everyone. So with this project, I think the important part is, in order for us to move forward, I think we always need to understand that we're moving forward with a general obligation corporate bonds. We would do this without the understanding of whether or not we would have outside funding sources. So, and then of course, as these projects go, we would have that financial pieces available. We do have a couple of things that could help us with the funding of these projects. So I did go with our public works superintendent to the county, and I've had discussions with the county because this particular 30th Avenue overlay, and I get my directions all weird, but west is really kind of managed by the county, and then of course the east portion is within the city limit. Did I say that right? The east portion within the city limits. So many years ago, with the history of that, probably back when Becca, those things were happening, it was a temporary fix to do this chip seal, and this then was a shared expense between the county and the city. And of course, over the years, this temporary has just continued to become temporary. Since then, we have over 250 residents out in that area, and this was one that was prioritized that we need to really have a more permanent solution, which would then lend itself to more of an overlay for this project. So coming to this meeting, those conversations with the county are in place. I do believe that the county will contribute something. We do not know exactly what they would contribute, but the city has prioritized this as one of our projects. So I feel that whatever the county contributes would be good for the project. So obviously, if that were to happen and the bids come in lower, then we would have additional funds, or we would need to take out some of that loan. So are there questions about the 30th?
That's a bond.
Sorry, the bond, thank you.
And you have to set the bond at a certain amount.
Yes.
You can't,
Yes, so those funds, yes, so the funds will still be there, but if we come into additional dollars, those funds could potentially be used toward another project that the city would allocate at that time, if we were to get the additional if we were to get anything from the county. And our date for them to get back to us was after their meeting, which I want to say January 20th. We'll know more after January 20th. The second project was the South Street to Ash Avenue, which you really don't have a map of because we really don't have a concept map, but if you, I actually want to put this way.
We can update.
Yeah, we'll probably update this. So the discussion yesterday for the sidewalks project is anytime you do a sidewalk project, and I'm guessing that did we say that this is almost a mile?
On both sides, it would be a mile.
On both sides, it would be a
Sidewalks,
mile.
It was installed on both sides of South Street down to Shiloh.
So I think how we left this yesterday, based on the estimate, this would be from Shiloh to Ash Avenue, and it would likely end up being in phases. So the first phase, which would be the 545,000, our hope would be that it will be Shiloh Avenue to Ash Avenue along South Street with one side, fully sidewalk for one side. Then where I believe with the funding, it's not called Safe Routes anymore. What is it called?
Safe routes for all.
Safe Routes for All. That may come in a second phase because then Main Street, where the school is, we have those side streets where we would also then likely have additional infrastructure that would take place. So the Safe Routes grant opportunity, I feel would be best as like the second phase of the project, which would be those side streets that would connect the school actually to South Street then. Because then we would also likely have additional infrastructure, which right off the top of my head, I'm not.
I think there's some water main and then
Yes.
some roadway improvements along with it.
And then, of course, the difference between those would be the cost of issuance. So I included Maggie's email in there that I sent to you, which is the estimates and quotes for the issuing of the bonds. Did I forget anything? That was a lot. That was a lot. So moving on to how this fits in the capital improvement plan. So back in 2024-25, when the city council was working on that, and some of you may or may not remember because you were probably not on the council at the time, but these were also prioritized with Spear Financial so that the city would take on projects when other debts would fall off. So what I wanted to make clear here is that the current debt, which was a 2015 for $880,000, which was a general obligation loan, that will be paid off here in June of 2026, which then frees up that debt capacity for the city or the debt service, which Maggie quoted, I think the net debt was likely like 46 to 47,000 there, which she referenced in her email. So how we move forward with this would be that in Maggie's email, as well as with bond counsel, we would have to move forward if this is a fiscal year 27 project that we would like to do to line up with our financial plan. That timeline would then be setting a date tonight for a public hearing that would take place at the next council meeting, which would be February 11th, thank you. February 11th. So, just to reiterate, I'm sure, like, I did print off all of the information that Maggie had shared in her email, which we'll get back down into the pro forma of how that works, how that would impact. Once I get this into the Department of Management website, if this is approved, then I'll be able to show you exactly how that would impact or not impact the property tax levy. It would, but we also have the other one dropping off, so there would be little to none in terms of a difference there, hopefully. Does that capture a lot of what we discussed yesterday? Do you remember? I'm looking at you. Or other questions that maybe I haven't, that's a lot.
I have a question. So just to go back, so if we were to set a public hearing, you would be able to plug that in then is what you were saying, and we would have that before we would have to decide.
Yes, so that would be my hope, yes, that I'll be able to get all of this into the Department of Management's website. And the one thing that we probably won't have by February is the insurance. But we'll have an estimate. I'm going to go with an estimate for not only the liability property insurance, but we'll also go with an estimate for the health insurance. So I think we should have a really good idea of how that would impact the property tax levy for the hearing.
So the project of doing one side, is there one side more optimal than the other?
So the thought is we look at it, kind of what side would be the most cost effective, and then focus on doing that as a base bid, and then maybe do like an alternate for one block on the opposite side, and maybe a second alternate for a second block. And see, we can do as much as we can for whatever is budgeted for that project, is what we've discussed. So, hopefully we can get all of one side and part of the other side complete with this project. We just don't know if we can get both sides of South Street and Endeavor down to, or Endeavor Avenue down to Shiloh completed. So the thought was focus on one side for the entire length, so we at least have one route in place, and then do one or two alternates on the opposite side, just to max out that funding and see get as much done as we can.
The estimate of the 545, is that including adding to Shiloh, or would that increase to add to Shiloh?
I think it would increase it a little bit, but then again, why we focus on doing, because the original estimate, back in 24, I think was stopping in Endeavor. But in the last 3 years, a lot of that, Shiloh was built out, and you'd be living, even just a block without sidewalks, and it didn't make sense. And that newer development has sidewalk when they're building the houses, they're building the sidewalks into it. So the thought was, let's go ahead and get that connected with at least one side of South Street and Endeavor. And then, so.
And there's no drainage issues from along south then, like.
So there is one block that's rural. So what we would have to do, whatever side we do the base project with, we would improve that. We put curb and gutter in, and then we pull the culverts out from the driveways and we grade that in. We'd have to look to see if we have to put in storm sewer or not, or if the existing roadway can handle that drainage. But yeah, that's a good question. That would be part of, that one block. We'd have to look at upgrading that section of roadway from a rural section to an urban section.
With that in mind, there is, I want to say it's like Hope all the way to Agape, the curb and gutters really tore up right in there. I don't know if there's any synergy of, I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but
So Jennifer mentioned, we had an engineering meeting yesterday, and I drove, after the meeting, I did drive the section, and obviously before the meeting and stuff, I got on Google Maps, and we kind of looked at it. That's a useful tool, but it's never as good as going in person. So, if the council wants to move forward with the project, we would definitely get out and look at some of those details, and, look at the site in more details, but, I mean, that's good information to know. I mean, if it makes sense to, replace the curb and gutter along with that, it's definitely something that is considered. What you said between Hope and
I want to say Agape, but it goes quite a ways down, all of that, what I guess you call it curb, it's just really busted up. It's not curb, it's just like the waterway, if you will.
yeah, the gutter.
Gutter, yeah. It's really bad on both sides, to be honest, and that stretch right there.
We definitely, with the preliminary, plans, we can look at that and put that in for, council's consideration, and obviously that would be, we could do that as an alternate instead of sidewalk on the south side or something like that. If that was something that we desired.
And I don't know if Trent had any other ideas with that. Replacing that anytime soon with our storm sewer fund, I don't know, it's just really bad down there, so.
I don't know the answer to that, but I think like Shane said, we brought up the rural part yesterday, but I don't remember, we didn't talk specifically about that. However, the best time to do that would be probably in a project like this, which is why our first commitment was that we wanted to commit with the funds that were available, that we could get the long stretch of sidewalk in with that money, and then get those side streets and then possibly the additional side then as well. So I definitely feel that makes sense to address that issue. But that's way outside my scope to speak on that, so.
And for tonight, really, I just want to make clear that, I had some questions come up about this agenda topic, and what tonight is really just setting that date for the public hearing. It's not one way or the other whether or not we're doing this, and I think in order for us to have more visibility to what that looks like for our budget, we almost have, my understanding is we have to have a public hearing to be able to even do
Yes.
that. Okay.
And we also want to get the council's permission before we start investing a lot of more heavy concept maps and engineering costs, things like that, before we were to get into that as well. So I think most of the financial side of it with Maggie, this was very clearly, I would say strategically planned this way in the capital plan based on the meetings that we had been with her, as well as ECOG at the same time, to make sure that the city had the capacity to do that. So yes, setting the date is the resolution for tonight.
Any other concerns?
No, I'd make a motion to approve setting a date for those two capital projects for the $900,000.
And I'll second.
We've already had the discussion, so shall we vote? Bite?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Bendel?
Yes.
Vasky?
Yes.
Well, that fills that page out. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Don't anybody run away, we got to meet that now.
Okay, so we could take a short recess then before the budget session if anyone wants to.
For meetings.
Next.